I ain't got nothing but love, babe. 8 days a geek.
Hello and welcome to this next episode of 8 Days a Geek series, What If? My name is Chris Weeks and I am joined by...
AJ Jenks.
And...
Benjamin Pryor.
How we doing, boys? It's a hot day.
It is a very hot
sweaty
day.
one.
It is a
Yeah.
sweaty day in Gotham City, it must be
Yep.
said. Are you surviving?
Yeah, I mean, I got the fan going a bit Mac 10, so I'm hoping the folks at home don't hear the fan.
No, I'm sure they don't mind. If
I've
you can
got
hear
my neck
Pryor's
fan.
No, they
fan,
don't
just
mind.
comment.
We got a noise gate anyway.
We
it's
got
alright,
the
don't worry
the
about that.
magic of the noise gate. No.
Yeah.
Well, boys, we're talking about something very, very interesting. In a slight change to our broadcasting schedule, we're actually going to be talking about a question that comes from Avengers Endgame rather than from the Lord of the Rings. We'll save the Lord of the Rings for another time because it's been a Lord of the Rings heavy week. So the question that we're going to be putting and answering today and discussing is, what if Hawkeye had died in Endgame instead of Black Widow? Now, for me, this is it's a slightly more personal question than it is a big narrative question. But before we get there, boys, you remember the rules of this. We get 3 or 4 minutes where we can just chatter away on our own without too much interruption. And then at the end, we'll come back together and we'll talk about everything as a 3. Does that all make sense?
Yep, I want a nice clean discussion. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely right. Pryor, as our resident Marvel expert, do you fancy kicking us off on this episode?
Yeah, I'll take the first stab, shall I, at this?
Go on, mate.
So I think I have been wondering this for a long time, but I also think that so many people have. From when we saw Endgame, we were kind of given this situation, of course, on top of the cliff, where one of them had to die to get the Soul Stone. And for me personally, I kind of knew it was going to be Natasha because of her background. But let's say that Clint did die, Hawkeye did die. I think the state that Natasha was in, she was already broken, so broken, almost beyond repair broken. And Clint had his family, everyone that had just come back. And so Natasha would have had the weight of his family, knowing that he died and she didn't. And all of the Avengers, of course, it would have completely broken her. I actually don't think she would have survived herself. I think she would have put, self-inflicted, put herself into her own kind of deep depth of darkness where she wouldn't really come back out of again, whether that be in the form of being a bit more towards the villainous side,
Right.
or not being with us, of course. I think Clint was her best friend. They had been in battle together for so many years, and she'd become part of his family. And with Natasha's death, it acted as a martyr. They all wanted to defeat Thanos because of it, because of what she sacrificed and knowing everything that they did. If Clint died, I think it would have gone the other way completely. I think it would have not really acted as a martyr, and Natasha would have imploded, meaning the Avengers had to look after her and put all of their efforts making sure that Natasha was okay. Thanos, I think, possibly would have had the upper hand on them. And of course, they still would have had the Soul Stone and stuff, but I don't think it would have gone their way. And of course, we wouldn't have, we might have a Hawkeye film. That would have been cool. A new Hawkeye
That would have been
film.
cool.
That would have been lovely. But yeah, that's the way that it is.
Interesting. So you're saying that it would have been a bigger risk had it been
Yeah,
Hawkeye. A much
definitely.
bigger risk.
And I think, Natasha would have definitely been consumed by his death, and it wouldn't have been the same film that we saw in Endgame. And I think she would have taken a very different path. And I hope that path's explored a little bit in Black Widow as well. That's my opinion. I think she would have gone a bit evil with it.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. It's an interesting thing to think about someone's death, a character that obviously everyone loves Black Widow. Like we love her story, and her narrative arc has been like brilliant up to this point. But it's always a tough thing to think like, oh, actually, it probably was better that you died in a funny sort of way. And there was that thing with Doctor Strange, of course, seeing the possible outcomes. Presumably, in that instance as well, that is the way that it sort of had to go for it to turn out the way that it did.
Well, definitely there was
Yeah.
one outcome,
Yeah.
and that was the one that they lived. So any other outcome, so that means Natasha not dying, anything like that
Yeah.
would have meant that they wouldn't have won. So she literally had to die, and
Ugh.
absolutely tragic. But her life, in my opinion, was leading to that.
Yeah.
That was her sacrifice that she made, and that was the end of her arc, her tale. And what a wonderful end! But well, not
Yeah.
very wonderful, but you know what
Yeah,
I mean.
but-
Lovely story.
Yeah, a fitting end, definitely.
Yeah, fitting,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Lovely. Thanks, Pry. Jenks, do you want to go?
Right. Well, I think there could have been an almost Civil War-esque kind of thing that would have happened if Natasha did come back. I think you would have had the Avengers kind of breaking off into two sides of, you would have had people like Banner and, Captain America and stuff like that being on Natasha's side, going like, okay, you had to do what you had to do. You couldn't change or anything. And then I think you would have had like Tony Stark and the other guys going, what have you done? This man had a family. Why did you do this? Like, and I think, yeah, there would have been more of that. And I think that the Avengers, we've seen what the Avengers are like when those kind of things happen. They won't concentrate on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as Thanos came back, there would have been that tension. There would have been that kind of, I don't know, that kind of push away from each other that I think, wouldn't have helped at all. I think Thanos would have used it to his advantage, really.
Yeah.
Just like Ultron did. Ultron played them against each other. He pushed
Absolutely.
and pushed and pushed them against each other, and I think this would have happened exactly the same. The one thing I would have liked to see is maybe, I mean, this isn't really about the subject. I would have liked to see it a bit more Ronan-esque. If Hawkeye was a bit more Ronan and then Natasha did jump and that brought him back, that made him realise. But that's my only little moment in Endgame, is that you see, well, the name isn't even said, but you see Ronan, which is obviously Hawkeye when he turns to a vigilante. And there's some great stories, really great Ronin stories. And we didn't really see that. And I would have loved Natasha's death to be, because they were such close friends, I would have loved Natasha's death to be him going back to Hawkeye, remembering what he's doing, remembering why they're there. But I still think I agree that Natasha did have to die.
Yeah.
To push the story along.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think it just makes it a bit more of a powerful story as well. I agree with Pryor as well. They used her as a martyr. Not used her, but she did become a martyr. That scene where they're all at the lake and they're all just looking out, and Banner just throws the bench. And it's just like, yeah, okay, they can use this.
Yeah.
They can really, really use this. If that was the other way, and that they were on the lake again, I think there just would have been pure arguments. There would have been, breakups, people pushing away from each other and stuff. They just wouldn't have been ready for the biggest thing that the Avengers, if not anyone in the universe, had come against. So, yeah. So it's kind of pretty. I mean, it's pretty much the same lines as Pryor, really.
Yeah.
But yes.
The really interesting thing that I picked up there was the Civil War aspect of it. Because imagine if the Avengers were in that state of conflict and Thanos had rocked up, would it be in a case that they would just have put it all to the side and then sorted it out? I mean, we haven't really seen that, when they were in such a state of conflict, especially at the end of Civil War.
Well, another moment as well is that when Stark finally makes his own version of Thanos's gauntlet, I feel like half of the Avengers wouldn't have wanted Banner to click his fingers and bring everyone back, because I think they would have still been like, no, there's a way we can get her back. There's a way that we can let's wait and find out. We've done our job, let's wait. We know we can clip, we've got all the stones, let's wait, let's see if we can find her. So,
it's true.
Yeah, I think that's one. But Mr. Chris.
Mr. Chris, yeah. I definitely, a lot of my thoughts went along similar lines to you boys. Thinking about the avenging part of the Avengers, as tough as it is to say, I think that they, the the leading members of the Avengers had a stronger personal relationship and emotional attachment to Natasha than they do to Clint, naturally, because they've been through a lot more sort of together. Clint's got his other life going on, so he was never in the same way. He wasn't as involved with Tony and with old lovely Chris Evans, Captain America, and with Banner as well, of course. So from that perspective, I absolutely agree that they wouldn't have had that fire to want to avenge what had happened. 100%. I mean, if you suspend the idea that the Doctor Strange idea that there was only one possible way that it could all come good, and you just imagine that they get that little bit further down the line, and when they've got the gauntlet and they're passing it around and stuff like that, imagine say Black Widow encountering Nebula. Would she have done that differently than Hawkeye did when he was doing all that wonderful stuff? Would that have gone differently? It's hard to say, because they have such different relationships and different or not so much different relationships, but they look at people differently because of their different backgrounds. Natasha's got this very dark past, so I'm sure that she would look at someone like Nebula in a different way than Hawkeye does, say. But the really big thing that resonated with me, thinking about still suspending the Doctor Strange thing, if it got to the other side, and then you remember the phone rings and for Hawkeye's family, and then instead of it being him that answers, it's Natasha that answers, and she's the one that has to tell them that he's not coming back after all this time, after all they've done. That was the thing that resonated with me. So that would be the biggest difference in my mind, is that from an audience member's perspective, I'm actually delighted that it did go the way that it did, because I mean, that's the sort of thing that I just can't bear to see on screen, or to have that story told. And it's just such a that is such a big shift for me, and that was really like Clint's thing, and his big difference between him and the other Avengers was that he had that other life which he was fighting for, and which obviously drove him to become the Ronan character when it all went away with the snap. So imagining him not getting the ending that we saw is very, very tough to bear. Yeah. So, but I think what would my conclusion be, really? To be honest, it's really hard to escape that it had to go the way that it did, because the evidence is right there. Aside from the Doctor Strange sort of evidence, just when you sort of play it out in your head as to how it would have gone down, I think it's very, very hard to escape the idea that if it had been reversed, things would not have ended well for the Avengers. For one reason or another, it really is. The whole thing seems to be balanced on a knife edge all the way through. So yeah, so for me, it would have ended in disaster as well. I think that's unanimous, isn't it, across the board?
Yeah. So but I think we all agree that if Clint died, they wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
But it is such an interesting thought, and I think it's a great thing that is on everyone's minds, because it was so close to happening. It was such a reality, that the fight that they had just before. It was like, I was sure Hawkeye was going to go, and I was sure Natasha was going to go, and it's like, my goodness, it was really setting us up to kind of be prepared for either one of them to die. And so, I think it had to go that way. Yeah. But brilliant stuff.
Oh God, it is brilliant, isn't it? What a great film.
And then we've also got the brand new news, of course, of the Avengers game, which does star Black Widow. So
exciting.
And that's going to be absolutely incredible. We've just seen more details today, so you guys can... I'm plugging it because it's great, but I'll play Avengers on Twitter. You can check it out. It's fantastic.
Plugging other channels now. Unbelievable.
I know. Plugging Marvel. It's not really another channel.
Right. All right.
Pro, have we got a release date on that? Is that out yet? Is that common knowledge?
September.
Oh, it's not too long. Yeah. Okay, great. Very exciting.
So it may be out when this video is released on YouTube.
Yeah, it's true. It's going to take a while. I'm a famously slow editor. Or I'll just wait for it. I'll just release it afterwards.
Yeah. Just perfect timing.
The Marvel hype is at its absolute peak.
But just for reference, we recorded this in 2019, so.
But also, if you're watching this, then our Avengers podcast is also out now.
It is. It is. It's a big one. Go and check it out.
We're doing a few Marvel things.
We are doing a few
I'm
Marvel things. And
so in my element. It's brilliant.
yeah, this is really prior territory. It has to be said. We're in prior
Yeah.
country. But ladies and gentlemen,
Christ.
we've come to a conclusion, a unanimous conclusion, which is unusual for us geeks, but unavoidable in this instance. But if you have a different opinion, if you have any thoughts, any comments, any questions at all, bang them down there under the video. Let us know what you think, and we will get back to you. And do have a listen to our Avengers pod. As AJ says, get onto Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast provider you use. Subscribe to us, give us a rating, give us a review, and just be ready for the next bit of geek content that is coming your way. But for now, my name has been Chris Weeks. I've been joined by
AJ Jenks.
and
Benjamin Pryor.
thank you very much. We'll see you real soon.
8 days a geek.